Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I am your host, Jenna Bradshaw, and we have a very special guest on today. I'm a huge fan of his work. He does such amazing things. So without further ado, I am introducing Dr. Perry Nickelston, aka the Lymph Doc. He is a chiropractic physician with a primary focus treating chronic pain and inflammation via the lymphatic and vascular systems. He is the owner of Stop Chasing Pain, an international speaker and educator of Self-Care Mojo series. Also an author of Stop Chasing Pain and so much more. Thank you so much for coming on. Welcome.
Thank you so very much. I'm grateful to be here. I'm excited.
Great. All right. So we're just going to dive right in. So let's talk about how you even got into this work. And because you are literally known as the Lymph Doc. So I am so curious about your journey and how you got to this point of what you do to help others.
Yeah, well, great question. It's been a long one to begin to call myself the Lymph Doc. And I honestly didn't discover the lymphatic system until very late in my healthcare journey. I've been practicing, I can't even believe I have to say this now, close to 26, 27 years, something like that. And it wasn't until like the last 6 that I even paid attention to that system. And honestly, it was out of necessity. The only reason I came across it is because I had to rescue myself. I was in the abyss of autoimmune disease. I mean, I had multiple ones, polyautoimmunity, and they never gave me a name because they never figured out what it was. It was taking me out. How many people listen to this might know somebody like that, or they might be living that right now? And everything that I'd studied up to that point wasn't enough to bring me back, right? So I knew that I was missing something already. And then the people that I was seeing to try to get better couldn't figure it out either. I fell back into a lot of the Western medicine approaches because I was honestly quite scared and not quite sure what was going on. And you're looking for anybody that can help you and you'll grasp at anything. So I did a lot of medications, multiple surgeries, and one may be worse than the next. And I was falling. And, they didn't do that to make me worse on purpose, but that's all they know how to do. Right. And afterwards, they're like, well, I got nothing for you. And that's not acceptable.
I agree.
I was at a point where I had to make a decision. I'm going to give up or I've got to fight. But more importantly than fight, I have to learn to think differently because I'm missing something. And then that's when I started to look outside of everything that I've already known. And that journey began with looking at energy medicine from many different types, but just figuring out, okay, listen, what in the world does it take a cell in our body? What does it need to run? What does it need to heal and recover and regenerate? Because if I could figure out how one does it, well, then they probably all do the same thing, And I went back to basics. I started to really go and study cellular physiology and then what cells need. And it said it needs energy, right? Well, okay. Well, that's nutrients and oxygen and all the supplements and all those things that we're continuously putting into our body. And I've been doing that. Like I've been doing all those things, breathing, and I've been doing medications when I needed it or supplements when I'm doing it. I said, that's great, man, but I still ain't working. And then I got, okay, well, what does a cell do after it makes energy? Well, what does energy create? Well, it makes metabolic cellular waste, basically cell poop.
Yep.
That's what you do. I mean, you take stuff in, you use it, and you get rid of it, hopefully, right? So it's waste. And then I thought to myself, well, where's that waste got to go? And then lo and behold, I came across lymph as a big part of that. And I was just like, it was there the whole time. I never thought to look there, because the only time I ever thought about lymph was in two cases. If I had body parts that were really freakishly swollen from what's called lymphedema, that means that something damaged the lymphatic valves and fluid can't move and it swells up. Well, I didn't have that, but I actually was swollen around my whole body. I was puffy, holding on to inflammation. And the other time that you look at lymph typically is when you hear the C word, cancer.
Yep.
Because then they say, well, you usually have to take out lymph nodes in that case. Or, you got to be careful what you're doing, because the cancer can travel anywhere in your body through the lymph system. Which, first of all, I should tell you, it's really freaking important. Right? And then I was like, oh, and then I said, how come nobody else along this journey didn't mention it? Nobody has said, look at lymph. But you know what? I got angry at first, but then I didn't get angry because I didn't know about it either. And I'm in the healthcare profession. And then I thought to myself, if I'm in the healthcare profession and I didn't know about it, the everyday person doesn't stand a chance, because nobody's going to tell them about it. And so I subsequently started to go down the rabbit hole of learning anything and everything you could possibly know about lymph. And I just gave myself a little bit of a lymph treatment. And I kid you not, like within 3 days, I felt like 50% better, different than where I was before. I mean, I felt horrific at the first couple of times because it releases all the stuff that's stuck inside of you that you want to get out. It's called a detox. But afterwards, I'm like, this is awesome. And then from there, that was it. That was what I was looking for. And then my whole life to this point has been dedicated towards learning about it, but teaching others about it, and then also letting people see how that system works with all the other systems of the body. And here's what happened for me. I was really sick those 10 years ago, and I've shared this multiple times, where I actually contemplated suicide. I made a call to a suicide hotline once because I was just done.
Wow.
And the police showed up at my home because I made the call to the hotline, and they do that if they feel that you're going to harm yourself. And that's when my family saw just how far I've gone. So I knew I needed help. And the scariest part for me when I was sick was I lost my brain. Like, I had so much brain inflammation. I was headlong into what's called neuroinflammation, or early Alzheimer's. Like, I couldn't remember anything. I was sleeping 20 hours a day. I still couldn't do anything. And then I just could barely function. Had to quit work, had to quit practice, had to quit teaching. I was a zombie apocalypse, basically. That scared me more than anything. Pain I can handle. Losing my brain, not so much. So fast forward 6 years later, brain is sharper than ever. No symptoms whatsoever. I shed 30 pounds of swelling, inflammation, edema, and body fat in 1 month. Whoa. When I started lymphatics. I became tall, lean, mean, and confident. I started to get things back, and then that was the switch. And so I want others to experience some semblance of that. And then that's when people said, how did you become the Lymph Doc? That's easy. I just started to call myself the Lymph Doc. Somebody's got to do it. And so now what I do is this. I teach people what I did, and I teach them about the lymphatic system. And I studied a lot of different techniques and disciplines from all over the world and different approaches. I took a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I created my own approach, my own system, my own techniques of what worked for me. And then lo and behold, guess what? Works for everybody else too. So I know I went on there a little bit, but I get quite emotional when I talk about this, because when I talk about lymphatic work and the things that I teach, it's something that I'm very passionate about, because I wouldn't be here right now talking to you if I didn't start to learn it. And then I just decided, you know what? I have to tell everybody. And maybe they're ready to listen. Maybe they're ready to listen.
I think people are, and your story had me emotional. And I mean, it is so moving. I didn't know any of those things about you. And the fact that you were able to share that is very inspiring. And I know that other people are out there who are listening, and they hear what you have to say and they're like, oh man, like for the example where you were contemplating suicide. I mean, it got to that point where you're like, I got to figure something out. Something has to change. And
Yeah,
I'm sure there's other people out there that are feeling the same exact way. How can they not be?
yeah. You're going to move towards change when you hit a form of a rock bottom. That usually motivates you to change your behavior, because if you're comfortable, why would you? Right? Everything's
Right.
going great, but I also felt powerless. Like I just didn't know what to do, and nobody had any answers. Right? But that was the defining moment for me. And then that was the switch. Never looked back since then.
That's amazing. I absolutely can resonate. We didn't chat about this before, but I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. So when I hear these things, because that was a very similar story to myself, where I had like a breakthrough moment, and it was kind of like, all right, I got to do something. I have to learn. They're not giving me any answers. I'm not getting anything, And so when I was 20, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. They took out half of my thyroid. No medication, no radioactive iodine. I'm good. Just had the surgery. However, in 2020, I was good up until then, getting ultrasounds, no biopsies or anything like that. They found, we didn't know at the time, but a swollen lymph node, and it was on the same side as where they removed. And I had a freak out moment. I was breaking down crying in the doctor's office. But thank God it was just the lymph node, but it opened my eyes to energetic anatomy and learning Eastern medicine and how we can play the two together. And again, you hit this point where you speak to the doctors and they're like, okay, well, you have one of two options. You can either do this or you can do this. And you're like, neither of those are going to work for me. So
Yeah. You want to know something? I don't know if you know this about me, but 20 years ago, I also had thyroid cancer. My thyroid gland was completely removed at the time, and I had it spread to my lymph nodes, and they took out a significant portion of the lymph nodes in my neck, and I had to go through the chemo after that. And here's the thing. After that, I just assumed, okay, good to go, right? And
right.
So much. I mean, I didn't know about the lymphatic system then.
Mm-hmm.
So, but from what I know now, here's a couple of things. Your lymphatic system, its job is to kill cancers every single day so you don't get it. Right? So what happens if you do get it? Well, maybe those lymphatic systems are so overwhelmed that they can no longer take out the cancer cells. So you got a lymph issue before you got the cancer issue. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
And then 1/3 of the 600 to 700 lymph nodes in the body, those are basically mini sewers, mini toilets that flush out waste and kill cancer cells, parasites, bacteria, viruses, any kind of muck you don't want in your body. Those lymph nodes are the primary scanners that alert your immune system to what's what.
Mm.
What's interesting, people don't know, is that the lymph nodes are the ones that tell your immune system what something is. So it's really important that it works well and it's not full of muck, because it doesn't function as well, or it overfunction. You get immune system reactions to everything, aka autoimmune disease, inflammation, right? So 1/3 of the 600 to 700 lymph nodes in the body are from the neck up.
Wow.
So I want you to think about that for a moment. Why in the world would the body be designed that way by whatever you believe in? What does that tell you about the importance of the head, neck, and brain. It's super duper important is what it's telling you.
Mm-hmm.
In my world, you always have to work the lymphatics in that. You got to work them everywhere, but you absolutely always have to look at the ones in head, neck, face all the time for anything. Because I'm convinced of this, and I'm going to stand by it till I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
That one of the reasons I developed my autoimmune conditions and my sickness later is because the cancer was just the tip on my shoulder telling me, dude, your lymph system's a hot mess. And then here's what I learned later. I started to get sick a lot more about 10 years after that. And I got multiple episodes of this condition called cellulitis. If anybody knows what cellulitis is, itis means inflammation, and your cells get really inflamed, and it's extremely painful. You can barely touch the skin, and it settles in usually around joints of the body, but it can settle anywhere. So much though, if you breathe on it, you'll want to cry. And if you don't get it taken care of, it can travel to your heart and it can kill you. I got that thing 4 separate times. Whoa. So then I'm thinking to myself, why in the world am I getting this thing? And then when I learned later on, cellulitis happens when you have a dysfunctional lymphatic system.
Mm.
But I didn't know it at the time, but just kept going on antibiotics. And guess what happens when you go on antibiotics? You crush your immune system, particularly the gut, through your bacteria in your gut. And wait for it, 70 to 80% of your immune system lives in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got a wait for it moment even more. The gut is where most of your lymphatic system lives, even more than in your neck, because if something breaks through in the gut, your lymph system is the first system there to try to kill it. So if you have a gut problem, you have a lymph problem. If you have a lymph problem, you have a gut problem. If you have either one of those, you have an immune system issue. And if you have an immune system issue, you will have a nervous system issue. It's called neuroimmune response. That means pain, illness, and sickness. And you cannot heal. You will not be able to heal unless you address both of them. And the one missing component, listen, I'm a chiropractor. I know neurology up, down, sideways, forwards, and backwards, right? I don't know anything about the immune system and lymphatic system. And I look at it this way. I needed to hit that form of rock bottom to be able to discover it so I could find it and share it with other people, because I wouldn't have found it if I didn't get sick. So in all honesty, it was a blessing that happened to me, because it shifted my entire life of who I am today, of just what I'm sharing with you right now, because I went through it. So I thought it was quite interesting when you said thyroid. I'm like, I had that too. Yeah.
Too many people have it. I mean,
yeah.
I'm talking to all these different individuals, and, I talk a lot about just cancer survivorship, and a lot of people are getting thyroid cancer, and I feel like it's more prevalent now. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but, I'm like, I think 1 out of 3 people I've spoken to, they're like, oh yeah, I had thyroid cancer. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But this makes a lot of sense. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I have a saying that here's the thing. What I found is that in Western medicine, it particularly is that we focus on body parts and we isolate things. We do reductionistic thinking, which is cool. You need to do that to figure out how one thing works. But here's the problem. Nothing works by itself.
Right.
When you put that cell or you put that system back into a body that has to communicate with a couple of other trillion cells and other systems, it doesn't behave like you saw it behaved in a petri dish. It's not possible. So it's already flawed. That's why we're getting worse. And so the trillions of cells that you have communicate with each other, and we give them all different names, but the cells don't know what their name is. All they know is I'm going to talk to my neighbor completely far away from me. So my finger's going to talk to my foot. Basically. But we also isolate systems. And we do that where we know, oh, you got a thyroid guy. I got a gut person, right? I got a back person. I got a knee person. So everybody's in their own little lane and nobody talks to the other person because they don't think that, why am I going to talk to this person? Because I'm the specialist here. Because that's how your body works. So no system in the body ever works alone, even though we go after the one that we think is broken by itself. And it didn't happen by itself, right? So it doesn't function alone. It doesn't get injured alone. When you have an injury to one system, listen up, you injure them all. Why? Because they're all trying to help each other. They all watch each other's back. That's called adaptation and compensation. They'll help you carry the load as best you can so you don't suffer as much as you could, right? And they don't heal alone. They don't. Right. So I don't believe that there's any such thing as an isolated injury or there's isolated healing. Like if you cut your finger, people are going to say that's isolated. I'm going, no, it's not. Where do you think all the cells that are trying to come into that thing are coming from? They're not just coming from your finger. And then when you want to get the waste out of that finger, you got swelling and inflammation to try to heal that stuff, but you got to get the waste out from the cells that were damaged and the inflammation out. Otherwise, it stays infected, right? And then I ask people, okay, well, where in the world does all the stuff that's in that finger that you don't want anymore gotta go? And who gets it out? Right now, you should be saying lymphatic system gets it out, right? And then I ask you where it goes. Well, where it's going to go is to where all the lymph in the body dumps, which is at the collarbone, left side and right side. And then you need to know where the lymphatic system dumps its end product into the veins. So your circulation system and your lymph system work together. Your lymphatic system is part of your immune system, but it's also part of your vascular system. Right? So once it reaches the veins, then it's going to go back out into the bloodstream and hit all the organs so you can pee it out and poop it out and sweat it out and get it out of it. Right? Because those are also detox organs. So people are usually stuck where their lymph nodes and their detox organs are like a stuck toilet. You're trying to flush it and it can't go out. And then all that sewage stays where? Inside of you is where it stays. And guess what you create when you have sewage in there? More inflammation. And then you get in the loop, like boom, 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 and you can't get out of it, right? So this is a really fundamental premise I try to tell people. It's so simple, it's almost stupid, right? In order for you to heal, it's a two-step process that has about 1 trillion things that has to go into the two-step process. But I want you to understand the two-step process, right? You need to get nutrients into something. We covered a little bit of this before, nutrients in, and you get that through your breathing, and you get that through your hydration, and you get that through your food, and you get that through your supplements, right? So you're putting that in. But you have to be careful. Just because you're putting it into the body doesn't mean it's getting to the cells at all. It's just going in your mouth. That's all it's telling you. Right? So once the body can begin to break it down through digestion, I ask people, how does that stuff now get to your cell? How does it get to the cell? Now is when you say blood flow. Red blood, arterial blood. That's the nutrient supply. So it's going to deliver that, and then to reach the cell, it's got to leave the blood vessel through the capillaries, and it's got to cross this liquid fluid environment that's called your interstitial space or your interstitium, which is basically all the fluid that your cells bathe in because you're mostly water. So it's got to cross that. It's like crossing an ocean to get to another continent, right? Long way to go. Then it's got to get into the cell. And I ask people, what system do you think controls the health of the fluid around the cell? The lymphatic system. So if the lymphatic system is full of muck, what you just took in can't cross the water to get into the cell. Too much waste. So let's say if there's a miracle and it actually does get into the cell and your cells can use what you put in there, then we said before, what does it make? What does every cell make? Waste. And where's the waste go? The same fluid it tried to cross over in the first place, so you got more poop coming in. So even if it does cross the water and the cell uses it, it's going to add to the waste that's already there. Because then that fluid needs to get out through the lymphatic channels. So it can go where? All the way up to the neck, into the veins, back into the arteries, and then recirculate again, right? But if you don't clean your sink and it's stuck, I'm going to tell you right now, you're never going to get better. You just can't. It's basic fundamental physiology. I hate to tell you, but that's actually really empowering, because here's what my mistake was. I was too busy putting stuff in on the supply side. Let me get the best supplement. Let me get the best breathing technique. Let me eat the perfect diet. Right? Now, listen, eating the perfect diet is better than eting a crappy diet. So, right, no Twinkies and Yoo-hoos. I'd like for you to eat something that's got halfway nutrients in it. But listen, your cells are going to use the good food just like they use the bad food. They're going to make waste with good food and bad food. It doesn't care. You're still making waste. So you're right back where you started from. So all you have to do is reverse the process. You get rid of the waste first, then you get the nutrients in. That's the part that everybody's missing. Everybody's throwing stuff in, and they're not getting stuff out, because they just didn't know how, or that the lymphatic system had anything to do with it. And once you start working on that system, and once you make some changes, it will absolutely shift your entire life. Right? I firmly believe everybody's got a lymphatic system issue. They just don't know it yet.
I mean, it seems pretty clear.
Yeah. Now, listen, how much of a role it's going to play in where you are in your illness, I don't know that fact. But what I do know is this. If you have a lymphatic system that can function at its optimum because you're doing your very best to take care of it, your chances of recovery greatly increase. If you have a dysfunctional lymphatic system and you don't know about it and you're not doing anything to take care about it, you don't stand a chance. It's just not happening, right? And then here's when people usually ask me, well, how does the lymphatic system how does it move around? I mean, what gets this stuff going? Well, it's a couple things, if I may tell you.
Yeah.
So one is movement. Like when you move, your muscles contract and then they actually pump fluids, right? Not just lymph, but also blood flow, particularly venous flow, vein flow. Right? So that's why movement moves lymph, particularly walking or jumping up and down in place are freaking phenomenal, right? Because your calves are the primary muscles that pump blood and lymph from the lower part of the body back up to the heart. But humans, guess what? They don't do a lot.
Move.
Right. They don't move. And if they do move, they go to the gym and they sit and move.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we're not moving enough of ourselves. And then the other thing that moves lymph is a special form of breathing called diaphragmatic breathing. Now, not everybody knows what that is, because here's what I've learned. You can live in a small bubble of people who know what you know, and then you think everybody on the earth knows about it. They don't. 99% of the people have no freaking clue what a diaphragm is. Right? It's
so true.
So basically what that is, it's a muscle that sits at the bottom of your rib cage, and it's like an umbrella that sits over your organs. And every time you take a breath in, particularly through your nose, breathing through your nose automatically helps you contract that diaphragm muscle better than breathing through your mouth. So the first thing that I tell people on their healing journey is shut your mouth and breathe through your nose, not your mouth. If you breathe through your mouth, you're going to stay sick, right? So you breathe through your nose. That increases pressure in the body called intra-abdominal pressure, inside abdominal pressure, and it forces the diaphragm muscle to contract without you thinking about it. And your belly kind of swells up like a little balloon, and the diaphragm contracts and it pushes your organs down towards the floor. Now, so they don't hit the floor, you have another diaphragm on the bottom that's called your pelvic diaphragm. Some people call it your pelvic floor. That's the hammock basket that's got to catch your organs. So it pushes down on that one. And then when you exhale, the diaphragm muscle relaxes, and then it lets the organs get sucked back up. So inhale, it pushes things down. Exhale, it sucks things back up. And every breath it does this, down, up, down, up, down, up. What do you think that is similar to? A pump. And what does it pump? Fluids. The two primary fluids that are the most stagnant fluids in the body, lymph and veins. So if you keep your mouth open, you're not breathing optimally from the diaphragm. So I already know you're stagnant. And most of your blood lives in the veins. 70% of your blood is parked in the veins. That's really important to know about. Okay. So lymph and veins always go together. So, and where does most of your lymph live? Remember that one? Your gut. And the largest lymph node in your body, the largest sewer pipe in the body, lives about 2 to 3 inches above your navel. Right there. And when that gets blocked, the whole body's going to pay the price. Whole body's going to pay the price. So you need to get that fluid moving by breathing through your diaphragm. So here's the next thing. This is when people say to me, Doc, well, listen, I move all the time. I am a movement guru. I breathe I've taken every breathing course known to man. I'm the best breather in the world. Shouldn't my lymphatic system be like rock star? And why is it still an issue? And then here's my answer. Those should be enough. But they're not enough because the system is so overloaded, those can no longer do it anymore because the blocks are too many of them, too significant, too chronic, and too deep. And the only way you're going to get rid of those things is like anything else, you got to get in there and move it by hand. That's called lymphatic manual massage treatment, right? It's like, I always tell people this, lymph is 90% water, so you need to think how water behaves. If you understand how water behaves, you'll figure out how things move in your body. Now, if you had a stream of water coming down the side of a mountain and somebody put big boulders in front of it, I mean, you can wish that away all day long. The only way you're going to get that water to come down the hill is to do what? Lift the rocks. And that's what you got to do here. You got to learn where these nodes are, but here's the trick. This is the most critical thing that people need to understand. You can't just start pressing on lymph nodes and crossing your fingers and hope everything clears up. You have to do them in a very specific order in order for this system to work the way it's designed. If you press on the wrong order, you'll make yourself worse. And that's all just on understanding how fluids move based on pressure. And if I have time, I need to tell you what that is.
Yes, of course.
Right. So we're going to go back to physics class. Don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep. We're going to talk about how fluids move. It's called the law of hydrodynamics. Right? It's basically this. When you have a lot of high pressure volume of water, high pressure, it always flows to the low volume water, the low pressure. So high pressure always goes towards low pressure. And the easiest way to demonstrate that is when you see a dam that's built in order to keep water on one side and no water on the other side. What happens if people lift up the doors of the dam? Where does the water go? Well, it says, dude, I'm going to go to this side because nothing's there. So it automatically flows to the low side. That's what the lymphatics do. That's what the veins do. The lowest pressure of fluid flow in your body for lymphatics and veins is at the collarbone. Both sides. Okay. Now let me put it to you this way. It's supposed to be the lowest pressure. Right? Now, if the lowest pressure is there, that's where everything wants to go. That's like flushing your toilet and it needs to go through the sewer pipe to the big sewer pipe in the street to get out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I clog the big sewer pipe in the street, nothing's going to get out of your toilet. If I clog the collarbone, nothing's going to get out. So if we know the lowest pressure is at the collarbone, let's think logically. Where do you think the highest pressure areas of the body would be? The furthest away from the neck.
Okay.
So what's furthest away from the collarbone when you go straight up? Your brain. So that's why if you're blocked at the collarbone, you get swelling and inflammation in the brain, you get a toxic brain, you get neuroinflammation, and you get things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and MS and all sorts of crap. Because your brain toilets are clogged. Trust me, that's what happened to me. You don't want that because that's when the brain goes. All right. The hands are the next. Furthest distance away. Now, what's the ultimate furthest distance away from your collarbone? Your feet. That's why they swell the most. And plus, they have the furthest distance to go against gravity. All right. So here's what you need to understand. If you have anything swelling and inflammation in your hands, swelling and inflammation in your feet, swelling and inflammation in your brain, they all are trying to reach your collarbone. That's a long way to go, right? If you're blocked at the collarbone, all of those areas are going to retain fluid. But remember what I said before, systems do not work alone. So if you're choked off on stuff being able to get to the collarbone, then you're also going to be choked off on stuff trying to get to the hands and the feet and the brain through what? Blood flow, your nutrient supply, because the pressure backflows everywhere, right? So this is how I look at the body now. Let's give you an example. When you come in and let's say you've got swelling in your foot, you twisted your foot, you've got an itis in your foot. Itis means inflammation, plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, whatever. We know that there's inflammation there. The body needs to get blood flow there so we can heal it and make new cells, and it needs to get the damaged cells out and the waste out that it put down in there to try to heal you. So nutrients in, waste out, right? So now I already told you, where's the waste from your foot got to go? To your collarbone, right? And where is the blood flow to your foot come from? Well, it's called your heart, right here in this term. So it's a long way to get there. So in order to reach the collarbone, it has to pass big clusters of lymph nodes that gather together. And they're like families of these mini toilets that are designed to capture things very close to regions that have been damaged, right? And here's where I'm going to cycle back to. Do you remember I told you that two things move lymph? Movement and breathing. Now, nature's pretty smart. It says, listen, we know that movement moves lymph. Where are we going to put all these lymph node clusters? I have an idea. Why don't we put them around joints of the body that are supposed to move a lot when you move? So they're clustered around your knees, the back of your knees. They're clustered around the front of your hip and your groin. They're clustered around your abdomen because when you move, you're supposed to twist. That's called walking. But people don't twist when they walk because if they twisted when they walk, they couldn't see their phone.
That's
right?
true.
And then you have a big cluster in your shoulder joint. That's the one that gets clogged with the breast cancer. And people have axillary lymph nodes that have to be removed. And then the other cluster is at the top of the neck right where your spine joins your skull, because that's where most of the movement happens in your neck, is the top 3 bones in your neck. And it's the least amount of movement for most humans because they're locked there, right? And that just so happens to be the largest lymph node in your neck, sits right below the ear on both sides. So what happens if you're blocked in the lymph behind your knee? What happens if you're blocked in the lymph in your groin? What if you're blocked in the abdomen and in your armpit? I'm going to contend whatever you do to the ankle isn't going to work very well, because you need to clear all those areas first. Then you treat your ankle. Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
That's really big for people, because in my world, what they do is this. They treat your foot first. Why do they treat the foot first? Because that's where it hurts. But guess what my business name is called? Stop chasing pain. It doesn't say stop treating it, but I need you to have a system of why you're treating, where you're treating, and when you're treating it. Because I see it every day, that if I do the foot first and then I don't do all the other things, the results aren't the same. If I do all of the other things that I call the big six method, and if I have time, I'll teach it to you.
Yes.
I do that first, then I treat your foot. You're going to have a vastly different experience, and you're going to say to yourself, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. What? Are you kidding me? All you did was that, and it made such a big difference. And I'm going to go, yeah, now you know why. I just told you why. Because the foot can't heal if it doesn't have the nutrients it needs to heal itself, and it can't get rid of the waste, period. And listen, if I put you on my table, I'm going to check every one of those lymph nodes. And I know I've checked a lot of humans. Every single one that I see has got a block somewhere. They just don't know about it. They just don't know about it. They know about it when I stick my finger there because it hurts.
Right.
But it's not supposed to hurt when I stick my finger on a lymph node. If it hurts when I stick my finger on a lymph node, where does that tell you you have? It means you have inflammation around a lymph node. This means I already know the system doesn't work well because you got too much inflammation. Right? So the big six method I created because I wanted to have self-care. Every human being should be able to do the big six on themselves, and it's super duper uber easy. And when I show people, I build it up like for an hour, and then I show it to them, they go, that's it? That's all you got? I'm like, yeah, that's it. The magic is the order that you do it in.
I see.
That's the magic. So, listen, you can just start rubbing and slapping anywhere you want, but it's not going to be the same. Not going to be the same. And I'm going to contend maybe that's one of the reasons why people aren't getting better.
Yeah.
They're doing stuff that could be helpful for him, but they just got to make a slight little tweak. And if you do the big six before you do anything else, you can notice some huge changes. Ready to see the big six?
I'm ready.
So the big six, I show it to everyone because it's one of, honestly, most powerful things you're ever going to learn to do to yourself in your whole life. But there's a caveat here. Right? When you do lymph work and you've never done lymph work before, you can get a detoxification reaction from what we're going to show you, which means that I'm going to start to unclog your toilet and stir things up in there, and all that stuff's going to slosh around in there until it can start to get out. Right? So for anybody who right now, if you're constipated and you haven't been able to go to the bathroom in a couple of days, don't do the big six until you can poop. All right? Because I'm gonna send a lot of stuff to the poop chute. And if it ain't getting out, you are not gonna feel well, my friend. So
yeah.
No. Now, here's the cool thing. If you get if you can poop and you do the lymph, it'll probably help you with your constipation afterwards. Because one of the reasons you might be constipated is because the lymph is backed up. You understand?
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Because the toxins from the lymph get out mostly through poop and through pee, urine. So I also want to prepare people that you can feel way worse before you get better. And that's part of the detox program. But with the big six, it's gentle enough to where it shouldn't stir things up too much. But if you feel like you had a detox, it can be tiredness, fatigue, lethargy. It can feel like some of your pain got a little bit worse. You may feel some pain you used to have come back a little bit. That's normal. You may get, some people get a little sweat. You may break out on your skin. That's a big one, because the skin is a detox organ. I'm telling people all this because I don't want you to get nervous if you do this, right? But it might not happen either. So I don't want you to feel like it's going to happen, but make sure you're also hydrated. You really want to make sure you drink a lot of water, because the lymph is mostly water and humans are perpetually dehydrated. Most humans. So caveat on the detox, and also for the bathroom and for the water. We good to go?
Yep. Let's do it.
So when we do the big six, if you have a detox reaction, I tell people don't do the big six again until you begin to feel a little bit better. It may take you a couple days. When you can handle a big six and you don't get a detox and you feel pretty good, you should do it every single day of your life once. Right? It's like brushing your teeth. Bing, bang, boom.
Awesome.
So we're going to show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 is always at the collarbone.
Okay.
Always there. Why is it at the collarbone? Because that's the lowest pressure in the body. And you want to free up the sink. I want to unclog the sink. Right? Now you have a left side and you have a right side. You're going to do both. I don't care which side you start on first. Right? And listen, there's no magical technique for rubbing the big six. The most important thing that you need to understand is you need to pay attention to these 6 regions. I want you to explore what you do to them. I'm going to show you where you can rub them in circles. You can rub in different directions. You can do light little tapping techniques that I learned in Eastern medicine that teach you in Qigong. I just want you to start to rub the region. Don't cause any pain. And you don't have to spend a perfect amount of I got to be 30 seconds or it won't work. No, right? Usually I'll tell people just spend like 10 to 20 seconds on a region, trust your instincts, explore where it is, and just don't forget to breathe, all right? And you can vary it up, right? All you need to do is free these areas up, and then the body, you don't have to tell the body where to send fluid. It knows where to send it. You just have to free up the blocks. It can go over clothes or on skin. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your hand. We'll do the left side first. I want you to take your right hand and just place it so it rests over your collarbone. So it's a little bit above the collarbone, kind of on the front of your trapezius muscle and on your upper pectoral muscle here. And all I want you to do is just rub up and down, straight up and down over that region. You can go onto your trap a little bit, go over the collarbone, go underneath. Then I want you to go side to side a little bit. Right? And then now do circles, clockwise and counterclockwise. Right? And then you can even move your shoulder. You can roll your shoulder up a little bit towards your ears. You can roll it forward, just get in there and then go the other way. And then now put your hand right over top and give about 10 light slaps. Right? Move your body. Good, and relax. Then we do the other side. Now you just opened up the lymph to start to come in. Now you opened up the pathway. So the next lymph nodes above and below are already starting to send stuff there. All right. Now do the right side. Just go up and down a little bit, side to side, and then circles. Now listen, you can also do circles first if you want. You're like, why did he go up and down first? I just chose to. It's okay. Relax. And people get so worried that they're doing it right or wrong. Just get in there.
Yeah.
Collarbone is like, hey, it's about time.
This feels good.
I've been waiting for you. And
yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Now, some people already start to feel a little bit better. And you just open up blood flow to your brain.
I honestly feel a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to go to number 2. Now we're going to be on the side of the neck. We're going to go up to the top of the neck. right behind the angle of the jaw, below the earlobe. And then you should feel this big knob bone behind your ear right there.
Mhm.
I want you to come forward from that, and right behind the jaw, do you feel this little space?
Yeah.
It's the only space that's there.
Mhm.
That's the largest lymph node of the neck. And I
Oh.
want you to rub right there. Rub right there. And you want to learn something even more cool?
Mm.
You ever heard of the vagus nerve before?
Yes.
So the vagus nerve is the nerve in the body that puts you into a relaxation state. Do circles, right? And it controls inflammation in the body. And guess what? That's right where it comes out of the brain to go down your neck.
Oh, wow.
So you're stimulating your vagus nerve at the same time. You want to double check the wind box right there. Now, you can lightly tap with your fingers. If that bothers you and you don't like tapping, well, don't tap. Then you just rub a little bit more, okay? Then do the other side, right? Easy, easy, easy.
This is also like, it makes me wonder with people that suffer from like headaches and migraines, like this can be extremely helpful.
Yeah, big time. Okay, because you're also right here is where the vein comes out of your skull to drop your brain waste down. I'm not going to go too far into the weeds, but it's called your internal jugular vein.
Mm-hmm.
And then guess what comes up this way? The main pipe for all the blood into your brain.
Mm.
And if this lymph node is swollen, guess what? You're not getting oxygen in the brain, and you're not getting waste out of the brain, and your brain's like, you're killing me. You know that, right? Like, I can't take this.
Yeah.
And you just open up the drain pipe right there, right? So that's number 2. Now, what did I say before? What joint up here move a lot?
Shoulder.
Shoulder. So we're going to go in front of this. We're going back to the left-hand side. We're in front of the shoulder here, and you got your pec muscle as it goes there. So all I want you to do is, once you take your hand, I want you to rub it all over the front where the shoulder joins the pec, and kind of come up underneath and scoop inside that armpit a little bit like that, right?
Mm.
Right. And then now what you can do is just take your fingers and grab that pec muscle a little bit, massage it, right? And most of you are going to go, owie.
Yeah.
Right? It's because it's tight. And guess what tight tissue does? Stops fluid flow.
Yep.
Now slap it like this. Okay, don't hurt yourself. Then I want you to go to the other side, right? Go in front of the shoulder, along the pec, kind of go down inside that armpit a little bit. Do your circles clockwise, counterclockwise, and once you slap it. That's number 3. All right, we're halfway there. Now we go to number 4. Number 4 is the belly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I'm seated, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through it. Now, it's optimal, obviously, if you do it standing, but it's okay if you do it seated. I'm going to do it seated just because I don't know what's going to happen to the camera here. I want you to take your hands, and I want you to put one hand flat over your belly button. And I want you to put the other hand over that hand flat on the abdomen above it. So your whole abdomen basically is with the hands over top. And then what I want you to do now is take both hands and then rub up and down, and push in a little harder when you're doing the abdomen. Mm-hmm. And then I want you to go side to side, right? You can move your hands together, or you can do one hand goes one way, one goes the other way, like scissors, like this, right? And get that in there. Now, put your hands there and do circles. I want you to push your hands in there a little deeper and do some circles. And counterclockwise. Get your guts moving. Right? Then put your hands back in the center where they were, and I want you to slap your abdomen 10 times. Now, here's what somebody's going to say. Why'd you do it 10? Well, just because I felt like saying 10. 20, you do it for 20, whatever you want to do. Okay, I just want you to slap your belly. Now you're probably going to have to change your position if you're seated, because now you got to go, or stand, and now you got to go to the crease of the groin. It's right where you have a crease when you have pants on. It sits right there. Those are
Okay.
called your inguinal lymph nodes. Those get blocked a lot in people who have issues around the hip, groin, or pelvic floor.
Mm.
So this one you can do one side, we can do both sides together.
Okay.
Put your hand right over the crease. And what I want you to do is just go up and down. Like you're going on your leg and going up to your abdomen. Okay. Then I want you to just go along the crease, like you're following the line. Then I want you to put your hands flat on that crease, press in and do circles, clockwise and counterclockwise. This is one of the biggest areas where blood flow gets choked off.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, put your hands flat on the groin, but hold on. I need you to really be careful where you slap here, because it's a very sensitive region. So go easy. I want you to slap the crease. This time I'm going to change it up. Let's do it 11 times. Good. Now we got one more left. Behind the knees. This is called the popliteal, behind. Now what's interesting is that that's where your sciatic nerve gets stuck a lot, down your leg.
Oh, didn't know that. Okay.
Also a very powerful acupressure point in Eastern medicine. They call it the magic back point, because when you rub and slap there, people typically feel a big decrease in back pain. Okay. So put your hands right behind the crease of the knee. And if you're sitting, let your knees come out a little bit so you're not totally bent. And I want you to go up and down. So you're rubbing a little bit on the calf, a little bit on the back of the leg and behind the knee. Then go side to side, right behind the crease. Then do your circles. Then I want you to slap the back of your knees. And you pick the number.
12.
There you go, 12. Exactly. Okay. Now, so what you did there is just the big six, but after you do the big six, see what happens is you started to clear everything. And what moves lymph?
Movement
and breathing. So here's what I like for people to do, right? If you're driving, you can only do the first one. I want you to close your mouth, put your tongue flat up against the roof of your mouth. The whole thing goes through the roof of the mouth. Just don't touch the front of the back of your teeth. Keep your mouth closed, breathe in and out through your nose only. Right? If you're seated and you can't stand up, then all I want you to do is just start to bounce a little bit on your calves, like you're doing little calf pumps up and down. Boom, 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 like boom, 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 boom. Okay? If you can stand up, I want you to stand up and do that. So you're like rebounding a little bit on the balls of your feet, but don't jump off the ground. Just like little tiny, little mini calf pumps up and down as you breathe in and out through your nose. And you're going to pressurize the diaphragm to move the lymph. And you basically are a big giant slosh pipe of fluid jumping up and down. And you're getting all that stuff to circulate. And then if you can, I want you to drink a nice big tall glass of water.
I can do that.
You just did the big six, and hold on for the ride. If you do that every single day of your life, you're going to notice a difference.
I'm 100% going to be doing this every single day.
Yeah.
I got to keep you up to date.
That's a great thing to do also before you exercise.
Okay. Good to know.
Now, why do you think that might be? Because you're getting blood flow to all the joints of the body that you're going to be moving. And then you're getting your lymph flow to move, okay? But from a neurological perspective, when you hit those joints, you stimulate nerves. And then those nerves communicate with the brain. So your brain now has a better sense of where your joints are when you start to move. Why? Because you just slap them. So you actually are going to decrease your chances of getting injury because you have a better sense of somatic body awareness in relationship to yourself and to your environment. So your chances of injury go down. But when your brain knows where body parts are, it opens up your monster mode and it lets you become hellaciously strong. So you'll go harder, faster, stronger, longer, hashtag beast mode monster.
I love it. This is amazing.
It is.
Oh my gosh. Very simple tools to do daily. And truly, I mean, this is going to be life-changing for people where they're like, that's it. That's all I have to do. And you're like, yeah,
because
that's
here's
it.
the thing. When you look at that from afar and you just see somebody rubbing and slapping, it looks silly,
Right.
but it's not, because what did I just explain to you? I explained to you the fluid dynamics. I explained to you the systems of how this works, of blood flow in and blood flow out, and about the nervous system. So when you know how physiology works and how neurology works, that's not silly at all.
Right.
It's actually, it makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? And here's the thing, it's fun to do. Put a great song on when you're doing it that makes you happy. Sing to the song when you do it that has a nice tempo with your slaps. And then after you do the big six, you don't have to jump up and down. Why don't you just dance? How about that?
I love it. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for
You're welcome. You're welcome.
really just, yes, educating the people and sharing your story too, being vulnerable, sharing your story. And I know that the listeners will absolutely resonate and love this. Dr. Perry, where can people find you?
Thank you very much for asking. It's really simple. I'm not hard to find. All you have to do is type in stop chasing pain, and a lot of stuff will show up. My website, stopchasingpain.com, is the central hub for everything. And you can find courses, memberships, my workshops, my videos, because I do teach people how to take care of the lymph through intensive workshops, but also self-care videos that you can do. And I also, if I may mention, I've had my own podcast for close to 13 years, long time.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
That was
an
one of the first
accomplishment.
ones out. And I just talked to a lot of smart people, and it's called the Stop Chasing Pain podcast. Imagine that. And, you can find me on social media. Instagram is probably the one I'm on the most. It's probably an unhealthy amount at this time, but I digress. So.
Honestly, your videos were so helpful, and that's where I found you.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. Yeah. I love to share information on that platform. I have such a good positive energy and vibe on.
You really do. You have a really
people are they just love to help each other, and they love to share. It's such a good energetic platform. I like that a lot. Yeah,
me too. Amazing. Thank you so much. This was such an amazing conversation, and we will definitely be in touch. Guys, if you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. This is very important information to share, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.